I made out that I had lost a tooth because of excessive sugar consumption, because how could I admit that it was actually because I had an eating disorder? Nor did I admit to having been in an abusive relationship. I didn't want anyone to think that I was an emotional wreck or a drama queen, because that's what we always call a woman who has issues, don't we? A drama queen, an attention seeker. Then, a few months after the book came out in 2014, I experienced a serious episode of OCD. I couldn't do anything except cry and ruminate and have panic attacks. I had a breakdown, basically, my 5th in 20 years, and I'd had enough. I'd had enough of the secrecy and the silence and all the fearful lying that I was fine, that we were all of us always fucking fine when 1 in 4 of us will at some point absolutely not be fine. 1 in 4 being the number of people who experience mental health problems. And if that's the case, then 4 in 4 of us probably know someone who suffers. How are you? People always politely ask when bumping into someone. And I'm fine is always the answer, even when it's a barefaced lie. So I decided I was not going to collude with this lie anymore. I decided I was going to tell the truth, and to hell if people thought I was weird or a drama queen or an attention seeker. If, as a journalist who writes personal columns and candid books, I felt I couldn't admit to these things, then what hope was there for everyone else? What hope did we have in destroying the stigma attached to mental illness? Perhaps this sudden change of heart came about because I was now a mother and didn't want my own child to live in a world where the mentally ill are forced to exist as if everything was tickety-fucking-boo. Perhaps it was brilliant people, including Ruby Wax and Matt Haig, talking about their own experiences of depression. Whatever it was, when I sat down to write my column in The Telegraph that bleak week in January 2014, I resolved finally to be really, properly honest about myself. I begin the new year by falling into a deep depression, I wrote. I don't mean this in a jokey way. It really does happen. If I'm honest, it's been going on a while, but you can't write that in a column over the festive period. Happy Christmas! And by the way, I'm really depressed. So I've ignored it and ignored it and ignored it for as long as I could. But as anyone who has suffered from the black dog will know, the black dog will not be ignored forever. And then later, when writing about going to see the GP about it, the doctor's waiting room is cold and the walls are a disconcerting shade of orange, like nicotine. There are people coughing and sneezing while some just stare into the middle distance, and I wonder if they are like me or if I am like them. I wonder if they too have the disease whose only outward symptom is a jaw clamped shut through tension or frantic tapping on any available surface. Diseases of the mind. What I would do right now for a cough or a cold or even a broken leg. Anything but this. Oh God, depression is so self-indulgent. The day the first column was published, my inbox witnessed what you might term a deluge of emails. Of all the subjects I had written about in my career, not one of them had elicited a response like this, and not a single person trolled me or told me that nobody cared. Over the next few weeks, I received hundreds and hundreds of messages from people sharing their own stories of mental illness. Strangers sent me cards. Friends I had always seen as upbeat and jolly, who had probably always seen me as upbeat and jolly, pulled me to one side and told me about the diseases in their own minds. And I had a light bulb moment, a moment of complete clarity, when I realised that far from being weird, mental illness was absolutely normal. So many of us experience it, and yet so few of us feel able to talk about it. And despite promises by politicians to take mental health as seriously as physical health, it is clear that this is simply not the case. As this book was being put to bed, an independent commission supported by the Royal College of Psychiatrists and headed by a former NHS chief executive found that a lack of funding to mental health services in England was putting some of society's most vulnerable people at risk. Severely ill people are routinely being sent hundreds of miles away from home for care due to a lack of available beds. Something, the report's authors pointed out, that would never happen to people suffering a heart attack or a stroke. Campaigners often use the broken arm analogy when trying to fight for parity between mental and physical health services. Why should a broken brain be treated any less seriously? But the sad truth is that unless you have experienced a broken brain yourself, it is very difficult to understand the urgent need for better care. Then there was the mental health audit that came out the very day I finished this book, which found that mental illness is the largest single cause of disability in this country. Suicides are on the rise, and sufferers have been let down by a governance.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.